Pale Directive. Training Module 44. Classification. Eyes only. Tier 1. Threat Designation. UC-22. The Brevet General. This material is approved for internal distribution only. Unauthorized duplication or verbal disclosure of these parameters to non-cleared personnel constitutes a violation of Section 8 of the Intelligence Act of 1939. Ensure the perimeter is secure and all recording devices are deactivated before proceeding with the module. The entity does not neutralize personnel. It reassigns them. UC-22, designated internally as the Brevet General, represents a localized command vacuum, a breach in conventional reality that demands a structured military hierarchy to fill its presence. UC-22 presents as a high-ranking officer of the Allied Command, typically appearing in the uniform of a brigadier or major general. Physical parameters are absolute and non-variable. Height is documented at exactly 6 feet, 4 inches, regardless of the observer's elevation, perspective, or distance from the entity. This spatial fixedness is a primary identification marker during field encounters. If an operative views the entity from a distance of 100 yards or 5 feet, the retinal footprint remains identical. This lack of perspective shift often induces severe nausea and vestibular disorientation in observers. Thermal imaging and contact sensors record a constant surface and core temperature of 32 degrees Fahrenheit. This freezing point remains static despite ambient weather conditions, including the extreme sub-zero temperatures recorded during the Ardennes offensive of 1944. UC-22 does not radiate heat, it absorbs it, creating a localized frost pattern on any organic or inorganic surface within a 3-meter radius. This thermal drain has been documented to cause immediate frostbite in exposed dermal tissue upon proximity, often occurring within 12 seconds of entering the containment zone. The entity is consistently observed wearing a non-standard overcoat. Detailed optical analysis reveals the garment is not constructed of wool or standard textile, but of thousands of overlapping, blood-stained notice of death telegrams. These documents appear to be genuine War Department issues, though the names and dates printed on them fluctuate based on the personnel currently within UC-22's proximity. It carries a 48-star United States flag on a wooden pole, the silk of which remains motionless even in high-velocity winds. The institution has classified UC-22 as a Tier 1 threat not due to its aggression, but due to its recruitment rate. It does not possess traditional biological components. It is a hole in the theater of war that requires a roster. This recruitment is not a choice, it is a promotion. Manifestation is not an event. It is a recruitment drive. Visibility is the primary trigger for a recruitment event. UC-22 is an environmental opportunist, manifesting only when visibility is reduced to less than 10 yards. Documentation indicates a 94% correlation between manifestation and heavy weather events, such as the dense fog of northern France or the blizzards of the Ardennes. It may also utilize anthropogenic obscured environments, including heavy smoke from localized artillery barrages or the deployment of standard-issue smoke canisters. The entity appears suddenly, occupying space that was vacant moments prior. There is no travel time recorded. Initial contact typically begins with the visual identification of a silhouette. Personnel report seeing a tall officer standing motionless within the fog. The presence of the 48-star flag is a secondary identification marker. Due to the entity's physical parameters, it is often mistaken for a superior officer conducting a forward inspection of the lines. This visual confusion is the primary driver of initial engagement. The entity does not initiate contact. It waits for the hierarchy to be acknowledged. This silence is a procedural trap. If an operative remains stationary and silent, UC-22 may remain in a passive state for up to 20 minutes. However, the entity's presence exerts a biological impulse categorized as the command urge. Personnel within its radius feel an overwhelming compulsion to render a salute, stand at attention, or report for duty. This is not a psychic intrusion, but a physiological response to the vacuum the entity creates. The air around the entity carries the scent of ozone and wet paper. Once an operative acknowledges the entity's presence through movement or vocalization, the review board phase commences. There is no documented method for reversing this phase once initiated. Operatives are reminded that acknowledgement is a choice. The institution is not responsible for the subsequent change in your tactical status. The vocal behavior of UC-22 is its most sophisticated recruitment tool. The entity does not possess vocal cords, yet it speaks with the voice of the observer's highest-ranking known commanding officer. This auditory mimicry includes a documented 0.5-second processing delay, creating a slight echo effect that many operatives mistake for the natural acoustics of fog or mountainous terrain. This delay is the only auditory indicator that the speaker is not human. The voice remains at a consistent 75 decibels regardless of ambient noise. Upon engagement, UC-22 will demand the operative's service number. The entity possesses an exhaustive knowledge of Allied personnel files. It has been recorded referencing the mother's maiden names, childhood addresses, and confidential disciplinary records of operatives it has never previously encountered. This data is used to verify the candidate for promotion. The institution has not identified the source of this intelligence. It is treated as an environmental fact. Providing a correct service number initiates the physical review board. Providing a false number or failing to respond within 5 seconds results in an immediate dishonorable discharge. This is a biological liquidation event. The operative's cellular structure loses all cohesion simultaneously, resulting in a total collapse into a liquid state. This byproduct is inert and consists of standard biological matter, though it retains the constant 32° Fahrenheit temperature of the entity. The liquid is collected by the entity's overcoat, which manifests a new telegram for each discharge. If the service number is verified, the entity begins the review board. It will speak of the operative's untapped potential and the needs of the theater. During this phase, UC-22 remains physically static. Operatives are advised that during this dialogue, the entity is assessing the current tactical gaps in the surrounding 5-mile radius. It is not looking for soldiers, it is looking for solutions. The promotion is a permanent physical restructuring of the operative's biological matter to fill a perceived tactical requirement. Once UC-22 has determined the operative's new commission, it produces a fountain pen from its overcoat. It does not use paper. The entity signs the air in the direction of the operative. This signature is the final authorization for the transition. The signature appears as a brief, glowing trail of ionized air that persists for 3 seconds. At the moment of the signature, the operative's anatomy undergoes an immediate and violent shift. If the entity deems a sandbag pile is necessary for the defense of the sector, the operative's bones will soften and expand. Their skin will thicken into a coarse burlap-like texture, and their internal organs will be pressurized into a granular, silicate-heavy density. This process is rapid, occurring in less than 12 seconds. The resulting fixture is tactically functional and provides standard cover against 30-0, 6 and 7.92 millimeters ballistics. All field documentation of these fixtures must be submitted using Form 12B. The sound of this promotion is the primary auditory linger of a UC-22 event. It is the sound of a heavy industrial stapler firing repeatedly into thick, wet leather. This sound occurs each time the entity signs the commission on the air, corresponding to the biological snaps and tears of the operative's changing frame. Despite their change in physical form, promoted personnel often retain a vestigial nervous system. In the case of sentry promotions, the eyes remain functional, but are fixed in an open position, with the eyelids removed to ensure perpetual vigilance. These fixtures have been observed to track movement for up to 6 months after the initial event. The institution continues to issue monthly paychecks to the families of promoted fixtures to maintain administrative normalcy. The hierarchy cannot be dismantled with gunpowder. Conventional ballistics and physical force are ineffective and logistically wasteful against UC-22. The entity does not possess a physical mass that reacts to kinetic energy in a standard manner. Extensive testing during the Italian campaign demonstrated that 30-06 Springfield rounds from an M1 Garand pass through the entity's torso without deformation or resistance. These rounds retain their full velocity and will strike any personnel or equipment standing behind the entity. Firing on UC-22 with the Thompson M1928 A1 submachine gun has been documented as a high-risk failure. The 45 ACP rounds are frequently absorbed into the notice of death telegrams that comprise the entity's code. These telegrams then manifest the names of the firing operative's immediate squad members. This result has a 100% suppression rate on squad morale. Attempts to engage the entity with the No. 36 M-Mills bomb grenade are strictly prohibited. The explosive blast and subsequent dust cloud provide the exact low visibility environment UC-22 requires to maintain its manifestation. Furthermore, the entity has demonstrated the ability to recruit the shrapnel and concussive force of the explosion, restructuring the blast into a localized ordnance rack fixture, composed of the throwing operative's calcified limb tissue. Standard military doctrine dictates that UC-22 cannot be demoted, relieved of command, or neutralized through force of arms. Any operative attempting to do so is in violation of Engagement Protocol 44 Alpha and will be cited for unauthorized expenditure of materiel. The entity is the theater. You are the equipment. The aftermath of an engagement attempt is invariably the loss of the operative. Witness accounts from Redacted in Sector 7 describe a squad of 8 men attempting to suppress UC-22 with a Browning M2 HB heavy machine gun. The entity did not flinch or move from its 6'4" vertical orientation. Instead, it promoted the gunner into a tripod assembly. The gunner's legs were fused and driven 18 inches into the frozen soil, while his arms were elongated and stripped of flesh to provide a more stable mounting bracket for the weapon. The remaining squad members attempted a tactical withdrawal. However, the command vacuum expanded to compensate for their movement. The entity appeared at the end of their retreat path, having moved through the fog at a speed that exceeds human capability. The institution's analysis of these events suggests that UC-22 does not move through space. It redefines the center of the command structure to be wherever it is currently needed. By the end of the engagement, the squad had been converted into a forward command post. This included 3 sandbag piles, 1 map table composed of the squad leader's flattened rib cage and stretched dermis, and 2 communication wire spools. The wire was found to be the squad's extracted intestinal tracts, treated with a high lead content coating for conductivity. No recovery of these personnel was authorized, as they were deemed to be performing a critical tactical function in their new roles. The post remains active and has been integrated into the local defense perimeter. It currently handles all radio traffic for grid reference redacted. To survive the general, you must be a failure. Survival during a UC-22 encounter is predicated on being a substandard soldier. The entity only promotes personnel it deems fit for duty. If you find yourself within the 10-yard manifestation radius, you must immediately initiate Insubordination Protocol 44. These steps must be followed with total conviction to influence the entity's assessment. 1. Do not render a salute. Any show of military courtesy is a formal acknowledgement of the hierarchy and will expedite the review board. 2. Commit immediate uniform violations. Unbutton your tunic, remove your helmet, and untie your boots. If time permits, discard your rank insignia and soil your clothing with available mud or waste. 3. Use prohibited language. Shouting obscenities or insults directly at the entity is recommended. This demonstrates a lack of command presence. 4. If the entity asks for your service number, do not provide it. Do not provide a false number, as this leads to liquefaction. Instead, recite a recipe, a nursery rhyme, or a list of civilian grievances. 5. Maintain a slouching posture. Physical fitness is a desirable trait for tactical fixtures. Present yourself as physically incapable and mentally unstable. This is the only known method of lowering your promotability score. The entity seeks to fill the vacuum with competence. By being an administrative failure, you become a logistical burden that the entity may choose to ignore. This protocol is a mandatory requirement for all personnel operating in Sector 7. Failure to be a bad soldier in the presence of UC-22 is considered operator error. The institution does not reward heroism in a recruitment zone. If the primary protocol fails, and the entity begins the review board, you must move to the contingency of professional failure. This is the final stage of insubordination. Procedure 6. demonstrate a total loss of biological and professional discipline. This signifies to the entity that the operative is unfit for the roster. This may include self-inflicted aesthetic damage or the public abandonment of issued equipment. Procedure 7. If you are already undergoing the signing phase, you are instructed to fill out Form 12B, Resignation of Commission. This must be done using the standard issue indelible pencil, while your anatomy is still capable of fine motor skills. Though the effectiveness of the resignation is low, it creates a bureaucratic conflict within the entity's vacuum. This may slow the promotion process, allowing nearby personnel to exit the manifestation zone. Procedure 8. If you have been promoted and are still conscious, you are required to attempt a grievance report. Do not attempt to move your new frame, as this causes catastrophic tissue tearing. Note: if an operative is cornered without their issued EQ-22 muzzle mask, the contingency is to immediately break your own dominant hand using a rock or rifle butt. This renders you unfit for duty and may bypass the review board entirely. The institution does not provide medical discharge for self-inflicted wounds, but it is preferable to becoming a sandbag pile. Personnel are reminded that their bodies are the property of the War Department until the transition is complete. Your equipment is designed to ensure you are never heard. Standard issue equipment for personnel in UC-22 sectors is designed to mask the operative from the General's review by preventing the acknowledgement of authority. 1. EQ-22. Muzzle mask. Effectiveness: high. A leather and steel restraint system that prevents the operative from speaking or rendering any vocal acknowledgement. This prevents the accidental disclosure of a service number. The mask is fitted with a silence plate that presses against the tongue, ensuring no sound can be formed during the stress of a recruitment event. The straps are reinforced with galvanized wire to prevent accidental removal by the operative during the command urge. 2. The iron gag. Effectiveness: moderate. A secondary restraint for use if the EQ-22 is damaged. It is designed to be bitten down upon, preventing the jaw from forming the words necessary for a report. It is also effective at dampening the screaming associated with the initial stages of bone restructuring, reducing the likelihood of drawing the entity toward other squad members. 3. TR-12. Fog filter goggles. Effectiveness: low. Designed to increase visibility beyond the 10-yard threshold. While they provide a slight tactical advantage, the entity's manifestation is not strictly optical. These are frequently reported as partial failures when the entity manifests within the goggle's own lenses. The bureaucracy remains, even after the flesh fails. 1. Form 12. B. Resignation. Effectiveness: low. This document is to be carried in the left breast pocket at all times. If the General signs your commission, you are to present this form. Warning: the General rarely accepts resignations. In 82% of cases, presenting Form 12B results in the operative being promoted to a draft shield. This fixture is a flat, 3-inch thick barrier of stretched skin and matted hair, designed to protect higher-ranking officers from small arms fire. 2. Insubordination Kit. Type 4. Effectiveness: high. Contains items designed to ruin the operative's military standing, including prohibited civilian literature, a flask of low-grade alcohol, and a set of incompetence pins to be worn on the lapel. Maintenance reminder: all EQ-22 masks must be oiled weekly to prevent rust in the damp environments. UC-22 favors: non-functional masks are a procedural violation. Personnel found without a resignation form will be billed for the lost paperwork upon their promotion to a tactical fixture. The War Department does not offer refunds for equipment integrated into your new biological form. Check your kit before deployment. A missing pencil is a promotion. Incident Report 44-902. Sector: redacted, December 1944. Sergeant Elias Thorne encountered UC-22 during a heavy blizzard and mistook it for a superior officer. Thorne rendered a textbook salute and reported his squad's status with professional pride. This acknowledgement initiated an immediate promotion. Thorne was promoted to the role of field desk. His torso was flattened and calcified into a horizontal surface, his fingers elongated and sharpened into quill pens. He was found 3 days later. his nervous system rewired to scream in Morse code whenever someone touched his surface. The screams were a series of logistical requests for more ink. The institution has utilized the Thorn fixture for 3 months of field clerical work. His output is exemplary. No recovery operation has been authorized. The roster of the Brevet General is never full. Operatives are reminded that their biological autonomy is a privilege granted by the institution, contingent upon the absence of a more pressing tactical need. Your body is materiel. Your duty is to remain in your current form until reassigned. Pale Directive. End of module. Compliance is survival.